Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Dan Dulac, and I will be your host and MC over the course of the next 2 exciting and jam-packed days of content for Extreme Virtual Connect 2020. Before we jump into a story that I want to tell you and talk to you all about, let me first just provide you some basics for your experience over the next 2 days. So as you're watching me through your web browser, through your interface, you're going to notice there's a Q&A panel in there. We've got an army of folks behind the scenes ready and willing to answer any question you may have as you go through not only my session today, but the remainder of the sessions, again, on the Innovation channel or IT Warrior channel or any of the channels that we've got loads of content that we're excited to share with you today. So go ahead, don't be bashful, enter in your questions in real time. And again, we'll get right back to you live as soon as we can with the expertise in the back room here. So with that, why don't we drive right in and drill right into a story that I want to talk to you about today around how do we help, how can you, and what are some of the things you need to think about, your organization, your industry, how do you learn from the mistakes of others so that A, we don't make the same mistakes again, or B, help redefine the services or solutions or products you are delivering to the community. Make sure, how do we leverage technology to do that most effectively? And so that's going to be the topic of today, driving and creating, making your life not only simpler, but making your customers' lives more simpler and driving towards that North Star of an effortless experience. So you're looking at some logos and some brands here on the screen. So let me ask you this. Can you identify in your mind what these have in common? And I'll give you a hint. Of course, the brands on the left, they either no longer exist or exist in a much diminished capacity. Why is that? We're going to spend a minute talking about that. The brands on the right, we all know them very well. We likely have daily experiences with these brands on the right. How did they redefine an industry? We're going to talk about that and some of the correlation and some of the underpinnings and commonalities, the common traits of the winners and the losers on this case. So let's first talk about, quote unquote, the losers, those brands who did not look even 1 or 2 years ahead of how technology could help them change their respective industries. Let's start with Kodak. We all remember the bread and butter revenue and the reason why Kodak got so large. They defined the photography industry with analog film. Kodak also owned the first ever digital processor. They owned the intellectual property. They bought that technology, but the technology was way too expensive. It was too big to put on any handheld camera or even large camera. They decided to use that technology to print photos, not take photos. And now we all know there is no more film. Every photo we take is done digitally with a digital processor. So again, one example where Kodak didn't take into account Moore's law and understand how they could use technology to transform even their own business because they were so fearful about cannibalizing what they had always done to what they could or should do for the health of an industry, their industry at large. Blockbuster, another great example. This little known company called Netflix approached the CEO of Blockbuster, I believe around 2003, 2004, and said, hey, we're a little $50 million startup. We are currently mailing DVDs to the home, but we have a vision that people are going to stream movies to their home. We've got the technology and the platform. As soon as high-speed internet is available in the home, we're ready to go. CEO of Blockbuster said, look around. My stores are full. Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, they're full. The smell of popcorn is in the air. Said, thanks, but no thanks, Mr. CEO of Netflix. And we see what happened. What Netflix predicted or the bet they made actually happened. You don't have to leave your couch. Click a mouse button, a remote control button, and boom, video streaming directly to you instantly. Toys R Us, this is a more recent story. So worried about foot traffic in brick and mortar stores, they did not invest in e-commerce. Again, this was in the early 2000s. It took much longer for them to have to go into bankruptcy and close down their operation. But companies like Amazon and others really stole their business, stole and changed and redefined an industry. So those are a couple of examples of where, in hindsight, I bet all the CEOs of these companies, if they could go back and change, they would, because the brands on the right did make some bets and they did plan on technology changing an industry. Think about Uber. They did not invent anything new. There's no rocket science here. But what they did, they figured out how to use technology in 2007 when the first iPhone was launched. They understood and they made a bet that everybody would be holding one of these smartphones that has a built-in GPS sensor, has built-in camera, texting, emailing, communication, application platform. They said, how can we improve an experience for not only drivers, but riders? Leveraging real-time data. When that map of the car, you can watch that car navigate to you, whether it's 5 minutes away, 30 minutes away. You're satisfied because it's coming to you. You see its progress. That's real-time data. They figured it out how to improve an experience. Netflix, we already talked about. Not rocket science here. Making bets on technology on how you could redefine an industry. Zoom, very recent. And how often do we hear about Zoom being referenced on CNN or any of our local news, national news, worldwide news? Everybody uses it, but it's been invented before. Why is that? There's WebEx. WebEx has been around for many, 20 years almost, 15 years. Microsoft Teams, Skype, all of these things. Why is Zoom made such a difference? Simple, very intuitive, simple, stable, consistent, and predictable technology. That's what they delivered. Again, not rocket science. They're leveraging just some very simple ideas to drive a very highly intuitive product. So again, just some examples, and we can learn from both of these. And that's what I'm excited to share about steps you can take to help arm your company, no matter what industry or vertical you're in, to take those steps towards perhaps redefining your very own industry. So what is digital transformation? I've got kind of a word cloud up here. And I've, again, in talking with many of you over the last many years, we all have different definitions and we wouldn't all be wrong. But I've taken all these descriptions, whether it be improve a user experience, deploy new applications, migrate more or less to the cloud, upgrade my network, improve my business agility. You get the point, right? There's a lot of descriptive statements in here on what digital transformation may mean to you. Allow me to summarize this for you. And these are what I'll call 3 critical factors or critical dependencies that you honestly and seriously need to think about as digital transformation is at your doorstep. Number 1, the common thing all of these words have in common is they're all about, to do a lot of these things, you need to get comfortable with mastering emerging technologies. Master emerging technologies. And we're going to explore these critical success factors more in a moment. Number 2, master the use of real-time data. I talked about this with the Uber example. Where would Uber be without that real-time data feed, watching that little black car follow on its drive along the roads on the map to find its way towards you? I would venture to say not nearly as successful as it is today. Number 3, the skills required to execute. A lot of these things require maybe new skills, different skills. Now, there's a couple options we have here. We either reskill or skill our employees, our experts, our IT professionals to meet the demands that the technology is putting on us, or we do the opposite. We, as a technology vendor, augment or transform the technology to meet the skills of the user, of your IT organization, of your industry. There's 2 things at play. I believe we need to do both. And certainly over the next couple of days, you're going to see and hear how we are simplifying, making our solutions more intuitive, more simple, more consistent, so that we can meet you in the middle. Maybe there will be some skill tune-up required, but we as technology vendor need to do some work too to help you along the way. Now, this is all front and center. COVID has leveled the playing field. Just if you thought digital transformation was optional before, it's not optional. Every single industry around the world is trying to figure out, how do I continue delivering my product or service despite what COVID is enforcing on all of us, right? So this is somewhat of a comic strip here, but in all seriousness, this is a serious situation for many businesses around the world. It is not an option. We have to start thinking about how we deliver and continue to improve, or maybe change our industry to adjust and adapt. Okay, studies tell us the following. I'm going to zip through these pretty quick, but these are pretty key case points here. Let me draw your attention to the text in red. This is a recent study that just came out last week on CIO.com. Gartner indicates that the technology spend for the remainder of this year and into 2021 is on an almost 8% decline. 8% decline on technology spend. 8 out of 10 CIOs and IT leaders feel pressure to reduce spend. That's even worse. But yet, look at that green statistic. 63% of IT leaders report demand for new IT capabilities, which is good. It means IT leaders and business leaders are looking for ways to adopt and adapt in the changing environment that COVID has thrust upon all of us. But clearly, there's friction there. I'm being asked to reduce spend. We are all being asked to reduce spend, yet I'm being asked to do more with less money. There's friction there, right? We're going to talk about how we address some of these things. And all the while, security attacks are ever increasing, never goes away. So let me share with you a very, very interesting statistic. 74% of you believe and agree you have a digital transformation strategy. Kudos. And I bet, and by the way, this study was run before COVID. I would argue post-COVID, this is, if not 100%, darn close to it. But here's the friction. Of that same group surveyed, only 15% believe they've got the skills or the technological capabilities to execute against that strategy. Again, there's a divide there. There's a gap. We, working with you, we can close this gap, and we're going to talk about some first steps. All right, so let's hit the critical success factors. I've introduced these already, but we're gonna zip through them quite briskly. First of all, master emerging technologies. We've got to get good. I call it failing fast. Try it, fix it, try it. Got to try something new, see if it's got legs. If it doesn't, move it away, push it to the side, move on to the next thing. Try it. We've got to get good. Human nature is such, we hate to fail, but when we can learn to fail fast, we will find a brilliant solution in the end. This top row of logos here, these are all infrastructure focused, right? These are all top of mind for many of you. Wireless dominance, whether that's the Wi-Fi 6 technology, now opening up to a new band, 6 gigahertz, or LTE technologies, 4G, 5G. Wireless will continue to dominate and grow. Wired edge, because of the stresses being put on the edge, the wired edge is becoming the new distribution. For some of our network experts out there, the demand is never higher on the edge than it is today and in the future. IoT, huge beneficial operational benefit. The more IoT devices we can instrument our environments, the better. But that comes with security risk. Again, there's friction there we need to address. Speaking of that middle row, cyber is constantly growing, as we saw. We've got to keep this in mind. Automation, because of complexity and size of our networks today, we have to look at automation to improve our day-to-day operation of our environments. Analytics is the proof point. Are the actions I'm taking to drive better operational efficiency, improve your customers' outcomes? How do I measure that? If I can't measure it, I can't fix it, right? So again, we need to think about how we leverage analytics in a real-time capacity. And then of course, some buzzword bingo across the bottom of this slide. Intent-based, policy-driven. You hear about this in the industry. AI, machine learning. You're going to see and hear a lot about this from us on this channel over the course of the next couple of days, as well as the IT Warrior channel. Cloud options and consumption-based IT. How you're investing and spending changes. And as an industry, we need to adapt to how you're spending money, whether that OpEx, CapEx, a mix, ebb and flow with the changes of your business, how we vendors are leaning into you to help you acquire the technologies that you need along your digital transformation journey. Critical success factor number 2, master the use of real-time data. Now, this may seem logical, but I can't tell you how often we neglect to see all the data that we have at our fingertips already in our environments without even having to activate or buy anything new. Sources of that data could be your IoT devices, your current applications, or cloud applications. The network has a tremendous amount of data that you may not be utilizing. So as we go around the horn here, we need to first collect the data. We need to protect it, not only in motion, but at rest. Very high security required here. Analyze the data, a vehicle to allow us to analyze it. This is where machine learning becomes very, very important. We as human beings, we can't analyze the volumes of data that are thrust upon us to make good business decisions. We need to leverage ML. Utilizing the data requires AI. Again, how do we take automated actions against a data set? This is where artificial intelligence will come in and help us. Very, very important. And again, the reason we're doing all this is to deliver a better service or outcome for your customers. That's where the human element at the top of this pyramid comes into play. The success factor number 3, critical roles and skills. Now, I mentioned some of these that I've highlighted in red here. These may be foreign to your IT organization, and that's okay. But when we start to think about how do we consume data, how do we use data, how do we market that data internally in our organization so that your IT organization can be a key element at the business leader table on how you can use technology to transform your business, transform perhaps even your entire industry. Some of these skills are going to be required. Digital marketing, certainly data scientists, data analytics, expertise, mobile app development. Let's face it, we live in a mobile first world. How you consume data, how you live your personal life, your work life, it's all through mobile. More you could do there, the better. Customer relationship management. All of you have your own customers, right? Creating better linkages between you and your customers so you can deliver a better experience, a better outcome. And then the remainder of those, pretty typical, right? IT service architecture, cybersecurity, cloud, you get the idea. Those are all traditional. But I encourage you to start to think about how you look at developing some of these skills in your organization. We, as Extreme Networks, also need to adapt and adjust how you can more easily and more intuitively consume the technology we are offering you through simplification, driving a more intuitive user experience, and making that consistent across our entire portfolio, whether it's wired, wireless, applications, network access control, you name it, across the board. So again, we're a team here. This is a team effort to help you drive and navigate along your digital transformation journey. Okay, let me talk to you about 3 examples. You may be wondering, okay, Dan, you got me neutral. I understand I need to think about looking maybe at an emerging technology that I haven't used or tried yet. I've got to understand how I can use real-time data for my business. I may need to augment or tweak the skills that I have to deliver on that new emerging technology or that real-time data. So let me offer you 3 examples on how we can help in areas of innovation that candidly we've been working on for many years in preparation for the environments that we're all thrust upon living today with COVID-19. So the first is, again, kind of keying off that word simple. You heard me talk about it's simple, intuitive, consistent. Let me talk about simplicity for a moment. In this case, one example in our portfolio is our fabric solution, our fabric, campus fabric and data center fabric technologies, purpose-built platforms to deliver these key attributes. And you'll notice some common traits here. Efficiency, how quickly I can deliver, create, troubleshoot a new service, to create fewer network touch points and a far simpler configuration. Fabric can do that for you. Better security. You heard me mention with IoT devices, the more IoT we can instrument, the better operation we can run. We can leverage the real-time data from these IoT sensors, but yet I need to secure them. And this is where network segmentation, and I would argue hyper segmentation, becomes very critical. That's a byproduct of our fabric solution. Segmented traffic on a per device basis automatically without any additional overhead on you or your staff. IoT onboarding, isolation, I just mentioned that. Make it easy. Plug those things in and go, and you have comfort and confidence knowing they're secured, they're provisioned, we minimize the east-west traffic that may occur with an infected IoT device. And then, of course, all of this for driving better performance, better uptime, and scale for all of your complex applications, not only the ones you have today, but the ones you're surely to look to employ tomorrow. So that was number one example. Number two, intuitive, right? And when we talk about intuitive, this is where I'm coming back to that skill set, and where we as a vendor, as a technology innovator and provider, are looking to make our products much more intuitive to help bridge that divide between your vision, your plans of digital transformation, and your ability to actually execute on it. This is where we leverage our cloud platform to do it. Now think about cloud today, how you use cloud today in either your work life or better yet, your personal life. We all use cloud every single day. In fact, if we're sitting on our couch, we want to stream a show off of Netflix, guess what? We're using cloud. We're going to our mobile device, taking a picture. Guess what? We're likely storing those pictures in the cloud. We're using email from our device. That's cloud, right? We're in our car. Maybe we're driving, I don't have one, although it'd be nice someday, hopefully, to have a Tesla where it's automatically driving itself. That's done through the cloud. And think about, those are more effortless experiences. That's why we all love them. It's a click or a button press away, and it makes our lives easier. Why can't we take that same approach and apply it to a very complex set of technologies that we as networking vendors offer the marketplace? There's no reason we can't. And that's a mission we're on today with our cloud-based solutions. Now, we're not the only cloud-based infrastructure technology out there. There's many to choose from, but let me cherry pick for you some of the reasons why we are different. Okay, first of all, device agnostic. So not only our native infrastructure, whether it be wireless technology, switching, routing technology, doesn't matter, but also third-party management support. Many of your environments are heterogeneous. You don't have all one vendor. You have a mix. We can uniquely offer an agnostic level of device management through our simple cloud vehicle. Deployment agnostic. Again, based on the size of your environment, you may have your own private cloud where you've deployed and set up distributed regional data centers that you want to simply leverage. Easy. We could deploy our software in that environment. Or public cloud, hosted, Microsoft Azure, Amazon, AWS, GCP, and Google Cloud. We support all three, giving you choice. So cloud agnostic when we're talking about public cloud deployment. Okay, so these are some unique differentiators to give you the maximum amount of agility as you're kind of navigating your digital transformation path and being hit with, gosh, all the things coming at us today with weather and COVID and changes of the business and you being asked to spend less money. This is a key thing that we need to look at to, again, help you down your digital transformation journey. My final example, number 3, and this goes, again, back to that skill set element. Remember the critical success factors here. Here's an example of how we can help you reduce your risk from a couple of perspectives. Again, as we talked about, as you're getting comfortable with maybe some new technology that you're having to ramp up your skill set, you're not in it alone. We have expertise where we can augment some of those skills with you, for you, as you're climbing that curve, as you're navigating your digital transformation journey. Here's a couple of interesting stats. Again, you probably have seen these. Causes of IT outages, almost 30% network outage. Now, I would argue any IT outage, it's the network's fault. We all see it, hear it every day, even at home. We're getting phone calls from our significant other or our kids saying, hey, Dad, the wireless doesn't work. They assume it's a wireless problem, not an application problem. So I think we're all in the same boat on that one. But when you double click on network outages, what are the causes of network outages? Well, here we could see 37% are caused by human error. Again, this could be a lack of education, a lack of training, a lack of know-how, could just be simple human mistake. We all make them, not a big deal. But the point is here is we can help you reduce your risk by bringing to bear expertise that our world-class service organization can offer you as you navigate down your digital transformation journey. And I don't have to tell you the cost of any outages. In this case, downtime, $5,600 US dollars per minute, and higher for really high tech dependent organizations. And this again comes from Gartner. So again, you have to think about how do you reduce your risk while taking maybe a little bit of risk in new technologies, real-time data, emerging technologies, and developing your skills. So let me summarize with those three final points. And hopefully you got my message and story here is think about how you can leverage maybe a technology that isn't necessarily proven yet, but shows promise. You got to kick the tires. You got to investigate it. It's time well worth your investment. There's a ton of data at your disposal, ton of it already without having to do anything. Figure out a way, how do you obtain it, collect all this data, how do you organize it, how do you apply some tools to make heads or tails of that data in not only historical, but real time to make the data work for you, right? And that has to be intuitive. And so again, we at Extreme are applying a highly level of intuitive capability through our cloud solution, our entire portfolio, to make that easier for you. And then of course, your skill set. You might need to augment or think about augmenting some of the skills to align with some of these initiatives. We're here to help on the human resource side, but also trust that we're working hard on the technology side to build and develop technologies that are much simpler, more innovative and consistent so that your people need less training or you need less training to adapt to some of these emerging technologies. So hopefully that gives you a quick highlight of digital transformation, how I think of it, how we think of it here at Extreme, in that never-ending mission of driving an effortless experience for you and for all of your customers. So that's the end of this session. And before we jump into the next, I just wanted to introduce our next speaker. Alan Amrod is our Chief Cloud Officer. And as you just heard me talk about, cloud is a key delivery vehicle for delivering that experience, that simple, intuitive, consistent experience. And so I'm super excited to introduce to you Alan Amrod, who's going to double click, if you will, down the importance and why not all clouds are created equal, and how not only things we can help you with today, but things in the very near future that we'll be able to help you with along your digital transformation journey. So I look forward to seeing you again in an upcoming break. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alan.